found it the last second. Okay, are we on? Are we rolling?
I think so.
Okay. Only Leon knows for sure. Before we get started, what questions do you have? Everything's peachy keen? Okay, yes.
Can you go over errors, like error parentheses,
How to use that?
Yeah.
Sure. So it would be something like, usually it's within a if, not usually. Sometimes it's within something like an if. So if, let's say you were supposed to put a number in greater than 0, but you didn't. So you might say if my variable is less than 0, you just say error, and then in single quotes what you want the error to say. You know, no, you, and then that's it, really. If the MATLAB encounters this error statement, it will print that, it will say error, print that statement out, and it will stop the program completely. How's that? Good, yeah, what else? Okay, so today what I want to do is try and teach you a tool. I don't think you would have done, did anyone do debugging in 112? Run the debugger, no, okay. Yes, you did? Yeah, so the others, people like shaking their heads, liars? Okay, no. We'll see. We'll find out, won't we? Okay, debugging. The way to think about debugging in the way that will help you the most is it is a way to be inside the function and be able to see what's going on slowly. So let me say that a different way. Lots of functions you either run from MATLAB or you write yourself, like you're doing on your homeworks. Once you're done writing them, you type out in the command window, like with the syntax we know, output argument equals name of function, and then in parentheses, input arguments. And then if the function works, bang, it's done. It returns to you the numbers you wanted in the output arguments. Although, in the last time or two, I have told you that inside a function, workspaces are swapped. Variables exist inside the workspace that don't. So when did all that take place? It took place in a fraction of a second if your function is short and ran very quickly. So what we want to be able to do is to stop the function in the middle of it and see what's going on. That's what the debugger is all about. Okay. All right, so big point number one, the editor window is the debugger window. So where do you do debugging? Within the editor window. Okay, so the same place you write functions is the same place you go in and debug it. How do you debug? I'm glad you asked. let us go right to the debugger and see how this works. On the blackboard for you was, Canvas is a add positive random numbers, which is a function you might write just for fun on Monday night. And perhaps it has some problems, and perhaps you can't figure it out by looking at it, so you want to get inside it. Okay, what would you do? Well, what you do is you click, move over a little bit. You click, why can't I enable, oh, because of syntax, oh. What's wrong? I see. Nothing, that's good. Okay. This is a little function that generates some random numbers. It looks at each one. If it's positive, is that right? If it's positive, it adds them together, and it disregards the others. I fixed a couple of the errors in there, and then now I am able to go in and click on any of these little dashes that appear between the line numbers and the statements. Okay. Usually I like to click on just the very first one I can, and as soon as you do, you see that it's made a nice red dot there for us. Okay. I'm going to go back and look at this function and see what the syntax is. Sometimes I'll just copy this syntax and go to the command window and type it in. I haven't pressed return or anything. I haven't actually put numbers in like I want. I just wanted to know what the syntax looked like. Okay. So now I am going to, and this thing also, you know, I need less screen here maybe. Okay, my sum, add positive random numbers. Minus 10 to 10. And we will generate 20 numbers. Semicolon. Now, before I hit return, in what workspace am I in? I haven't done anything. I'm in MATLAB, so I'm in what's called the base workspace. As soon as I hit run, it's going to stop because I have set up what I call breakpoint. So at that stop sign, oh, come on. Oh, wrong folder. It's stopped, and it's got a little green arrow there to tell me that it is currently sitting at that line number, okay? So it's like we're inside the function, we have stop time, and nothing is happening on it. How I get that red dot? From the original? Oh, sorry. You click on the line that's between the 23, like here's a line at the 26, right after that. Yeah. Yes?
At least on our code, it won't let us do that because it says it can't enable breakpoints
Because there's an error? Yes. Okay, so I'm sorry about that. There are two places in which there are errors in this. It's worth taking the time to stop. Where was that error? Okay, you tell me. On this side, on yours, there might be some little red lines. Which lines are those on? 23. Okay, so on 23, what you need to do is to add an extra parenthesis at the end. And then what's the other one? 30, instead of 1 equals, there should be 2 equals. You're saying, why did you give us faulty code if we're going to ask? Because I messed up 2 lectures, and this was supposed to be the code for the other lecture, but it's okay. I'm correcting on the fly. So now if you press save, do you have a nice green thing up at the top? Okay. By the way, now we're learning some stuff that we're going to get to later in the class, but we might as well talk about it. If that's red up there and you've got some red lines, that means it can see errors you have. So those are syntax errors. If it's all green, it doesn't think that anything's wrong. That doesn't mean that nothing is wrong. It just means that MATLAB can't see any syntax errors. Your logic and flow control may be wrong, but that's different. Okay, all good? Other questions to keep up with? Good, 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 good. Arm up? It's got a red box instead of green. And then does it have a little red line somewhere? Where's that red line, like if you click on it? Sorry? On the very first line? Does your first line look like this? Function my sum equals blah, 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 blah. Is that the right name? Did you name it something differently? No? Let me take a quick look. If I can't solve it in 15 seconds, we'll move on. But
That's right there, right?
let me see.
It's those.
Yes. What's that say? Oh, okay. See how it renamed it with a parenthesis 1? That parenthesis 1 shouldn't be there. It may mean that you have already downloaded it as something else. Okay. Let's do this. Let's not save this.
Download it yet.
No, I think it's here. I know what to do. Okay. Rename this. Get rid of that 1.
Okay.
And then save. And then open it up like that. Okay, good. All kinds of little quirky things that can happen. Okay. Assuming you can get to this point, what is going on right now? There's some interesting things that have happened. First of all, if I go back up to the very top and I move my cursor over one of these arguments, like min bound, it will get a little yellow pop-up and it will tell you what it thinks that variable is. Okay, max bound is 10 and n numbers is 20. Now where did it get those? Where did it get those 3 numbers? You type them back in the command window and now they're here. Look at the workspace under workspace. You've got 3 new variables. Those are from the function. This means that right now you are no longer in the base workspace. You're in another you're in a whole other world. You're in a space-time world. More on that later. More on that later. For right now, let's come back to here and take a look at some stuff. If I put my cursor over random underscore vector, nothing happens. Why not? Anyone know or guess? The answer is that MATLAB has not actually executed that statement yet. Okay, because the arrow is sitting here. Wherever the arrow is means the statement right before it's executed. So what I want to do is click on this step. Oh, no.
So you said the variables you have here on this side are part of the function workspace?
Right, the variables under workspace back in the main MATLAB window.
10 numbers.
Right.
So does that technically mean that you can manipulate them?
It does. Actually, it does. For example, it's a little sidebar, but it's well worth it. if I asked right now what n numbers plus 1 is, back in the MATLAB thing, it will do it for me. Give me a 21. This value is now, I didn't give it a name, so where is it stored? ANS. What workspace is it in? It's within the function workspace. That means when I'm done with this function, that ANS shouldn't be there anymore. But we'll find out. The other thing to notice is that the prompt has changed. It has a K in front of it now. I don't know what that stands for, but it means that you're in the debugger. D might have been more appropriate. Okay, back to this. We haven't actually done anything. If I press step a single time, the arrow jumps to the next thing. And if I put my cursor over random vector, it has now generated that vector, and there they are. So just generated a bunch of random numbers that are in between -10 and 10. Okay. What is the value my underscore sum? Nothing yet because MATLAB hasn't done it. So I'm going to take another step. And now it's going to start a for loop for me. And what's it going to do from last time? Remember this logic? Okay, for I index is 1 to the length of the random vector. If I hold over random vector, I see it's a 1 by 20. That means that this loop will loop 20 times, right? And each time, which variable changes? The value of which variable changes each time? Should add a quiz today. That's true. Okay, yes, correct. I should have looked at the program. What loop variable changes each time? I index. So I index every time through the loop changes. So what is its value going to be? Well, the first time through it's 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, all the way up to 20. Okay? So nothing's happened yet, so I index is nothing. If I take another step, now I index should be 1. It is. Now it says if the sign, SIGN, of the random vector at element I index is 1. Now the SIGN function returns a 1 if the argument is positive, a 0 if it's 0, and a -1 if it is negative. Okay, so it can only be 1, 0, -1. And do you see what it's going to do? It's just going to check. This is basically checking if it is positive. If it is positive, then it's going to add that element to my sum. Although I can see right away that there's another problem in there, but that's fine. Well, that would wreak havoc. We'll probably stop it and correct it. I can see what was going on here. Okay, but before I do that, I'll show you one more thing. When you're stepping through like this, you can already see some helpful things, hopefully, that like you can hold your cursor over there. Let's say you are at a point and you're debugging and you don't know what is going to happen, and you don't really want to run the whole step. You just might want to check something. So for example, here's an if statement, and it's checking to see if something is 1. Let's say all you want to do is go look for yourself whether the sign of that random vector element is 0. I could copy it. I could come back here, and since I can manipulate within the command window while I'm debugging, I can actually just do that, hit return, and see what will happen. It says that the sign is -1, which means that first element it thinks is negative. I go back to the editor and I look again at random vector. Yeah, sure, the first number is -6. Okay. Questions where I'm at so far? Okay. That gets a little more complicated. If we have time, I will we'll do that. It's a good question. Great question.
So should I copy and paste it into the method of just the and I click enter and set on function?
Does it say which one? I index. That, did you actually take single step? The step arrow, is it underneath 29 or right on 29? It's on 23. It's way back there. Okay, that's a great question, because the answer is it doesn't know what I index is because it hasn't actually got there yet. Does that make sense? It's a great question. Great question. Okay, I'm actually going to, let's pretend I found my error, my first error. There's many errors. Pretend I found my first one and I want to be done debugging for a while. Okay, I can just hit the quit debugging. And if I go back to the MATLAB main window, look what's happened. All those the variables in the function workspace are gone. Why? Because now we have switched back into the base workspace. That ANS is gone, the N numbers is gone, and you can't ever get them you can't ever get them back unless you go back into the function. All right, I'm going to correct something really quick on here that I saw a problem. On line 31 where it says my sum equals my sum plus random vector, that's not what I want. I guess I could give a genius point if someone knows what I really want. That's right, genius point right there. Kevin, note a genius point. That's what I want. If I just added it to random vector, what would it have done? It would have added the whole random, so my sum would have become a 1 by 20 and everything would have been all bad. Okay, so now I'm actually going to do this again. Now, should I show you this little trick? No. Not that I don't want to show you tricks. Just don't want to overwhelm you all too much stuff at once. Okay, I'm going back in here. I'm back in the debugger. Everything should be good. What's I index? Nothing. What's random vector? Nothing. I haven't done it yet. Let's say I've been debugging for a while, and I know that lines 23 through 30 are fine. I could click on this line at 30 and just say continue. Then it won't single step. It'll just run till it gets to the next stop. So I hit continue. Notice how it jumped to 30. It didn't really jump. It did all those statements in between. So if I looked at random vector, it's set. My sum is set, and even I index is set because it has actually executed those statements. Okay. Notice this will be a new random vector. How come? Because I ran the function again. Every time I call RAND for random, it should be generating new things. So I shouldn't, if I have randomness, I shouldn't expect it to be the same from time to time. Let's see what we think it should do. If I hold this over and I see it's got a -3, a 9, a -7, a whole bunch of minus numbers. The first time through it should not add that number because it's negative. The second time through it should, because that's a +9. And then third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh won't. Let's see if it really does that. So I step again. That step, notice, it was on the if, but it didn't actually do the if. And when I hit step, it went ahead and evaluated that if statement, and it saw that it is not equal to 1. Therefore, it completely bypassed everything until the for loop end. I'll hit step again, and what should happen? I'm in a for loop, so it should go back up to the for loop. Now what is I index? I index is 2. What is random vector of I index? Well, there's a couple ways to do it. I could remember that random vector is -3, 9. This thing would stop blinking, giving me a seizure. -3, 9, and then look at I index and it's 2. Or if I just can't remember that much, which for me, I often can't, I might do my little trick. Random vector of I index 9. Okay. Notice that didn't actually execute it in the function. That just did it for me as a friendly gesture outside of what's going on inside the function. So it is equal to 1, so when I press step, it should go in. It does. What's my sum right now? It's 0 after this line. It should add a 9 to it. So if I step again and look up my sum, now it's 9. And then it would continue to do that until it was through all of those random vectors. So go through 20 times. Okay, let me stop for a little bit and see if you have any questions over what is going on. Yes?
When I went to my button was gray, not red.
Okay, so were you you changed something and then you didn't save it. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, if these stop sign circles are gray, means you changed something and didn't save it. Good. What else? Check. On which line? Not enough input arguments. Did it say that? It says that back in the command window. And what does it say right before it? Is that all you put? Just that all by itself? You've got the numbers in there and everything? So you literally have this and you've got 3 numbers there? It goes, okay, good. Here's another way to make that error come up if you're into errors. You know how with lots of scripts, you can just, I should quit debugging, pretend like we're back in the real thing. With lots of scripts, you can just click this nice big green arrow and click run. That works with scripts, not always with functions. Why? Because if I click run, the function doesn't know now what input arguments I want. I'm going to save that for advanced. So if you have input arguments, output arguments for your function, you want to run it from the command window. Okay? Questions? Okay. I'm going to open up another one. Here we go. This one is fixed. It's not the one I want. Oh well, that's all right. If you're writing a function, you're working on your MATLAB homework and something, and so you're writing here, and now you know all about this little box that could help you. Sometimes it's orange. If it orange, it thinks maybe something's wrong. So red means definitely something's wrong. Some syntax is wrong. You can't run it till you fix it. Green means MATLAB doesn't think anything's wrong. All the syntax looks right. It doesn't mean your program will work because you may have programmed something wrong in the logic. And orange is a warning. So I do the same thing. I go down to these little lines and look at this, and if I can get my, it thinks that what I have always done for a long, long time, display sprint f, it says it can usually be replaced by f print f. And sometimes if I hit details, sometimes it says fix. This time it didn't. That's all right. Are all of these errors? No, look at this. I come down here and I'm using the small letter I for the imaginary number, squared to -1. And MATLAB is telling me, hey, you can replace that by 1i for speed and improved robustness. Well, I'm all about speed and improved robustness. Let's just fix that bad boy. Look at that. It did it on the fly. Wow. Fix again. Bonus. I need to save for that to take effect. That's good. Now what are the errors? So now all my errors are display sprint f. They're warnings. It will run just fine without it. Okay, so it won't run, warnings, it might run. Okay, a couple more things to show you. This was that one where it calculates the discriminant, right? Let's find quadratic roots ABC. So we'll find quadratic roots 1, 2, 3. What's that? X squared plus 2x plus 3. Is that really anything? Probably imaginary. And did I set a breakpoint? Yes, I did. Gonna hit return. It stops there. It's going to calculate the discriminant. I'm going to step once, and the discriminant is, negative. Complex roots. It's all right. Another way to make it go to the place I want it to go is just to, nope, not going to say that. Never mind. Well, I will. You can click on like any line, and if you say continue, it used to run to the cursor. Is it going to make a liar out of me? Yes, it made a liar out of me. Okay, so you can forget what was just said for the last 20 seconds. To go to a certain line, you click on that line and then hit go. Okay, one more thing. No reason for you to know this brand new random thing I put in here, which is called butter, which seems like a reasonable name for near dinner. Hey, Ben. See, do you need me? Oh, you're just hanging around? Sometimes grad students just kind of creepily look in the door, but that's all right. Okay. Let's do this one more time. Now, before I do, look at the two variables that are sitting in my workspace. I'm in the base workspace. It's ANS and T. Gonna hit return. Now I am in the function workspace. And if I go back and look, just pull down a little bit, I've got an A, B, and C there. So I'm inside the function workspace, which is great. If I hit step, I should have one more variable there called discriminant. There it is. Butter is actually a whole new function. What if your function calls functions and they call functions? You get nested, right? If I encounter a function while I'm debugging, I need to make a decision as to whether I want to go into that function too, or whether I know that function works. Maybe it's a plus, or max, or something I know has been well tested. Let's say I want to go into this one. To do that, I can't just step. I need to step in. Step in means go into whatever function we're talking about. And now that moved me to a whole new .m file. If I go up in here and look at this, here's butter. And if I go to my workspace, look, now I've got 3 new variables. And those are the variables in this new workspace. So all of these workspaces and different functions are partitioned. And I don't see one of them from the other. N should be defined. Wn is defined. This variable argument n, which we haven't talked about yet. I didn't pass in anything, and that's okay. But I will show you something interesting now. Let's say, by the way, this particular thing makes no sense. You wouldn't be inside the Butterworth filter function, But let's say you stepped a little bit, and you said, wait a minute. I'd like to go back and remember what that A, B, and C was without messing up where I'm at in the whole debugging process. You can do that. That is called the stack. If you look up here, it says function call stack. That's the same thing as workspaces. Right now it says butter. If I click on it once, you'll see that one step back was the function, and one more step back was the base. So if I go back and click on the function one, it takes me back to the function, shows me where I'm at, and if I look at the workspace, there are my variables that were in that workspace. I could go monkey around with those in the command window if I wanted to. Or I could just know, oh, okay, that's it. And then I could go back to the butter where I was. Now, yes? I was just, would that be this? No, that's a great question. Great question. In fact, you beat me to the punch. If I click on butter and look, see what's going on in that workspace, because right now I'm in the function workspace. I click on there and I look, that arrow is white. That just means this is where you're at, but you're not in my workspace. You're in another workspace. Okay. If I go back here and say, okay, I want to go back to butter where I was, it'll take you back to butter where you were. If I go back to the function workspace by the tab, it will have a white arrow, which means this is where you're at in my world, but you're actually in a different world. Okay. What questions do you have about that? So this, I used to have assignment on this, but because I'm a pushover, I will not assign one today. This is just supposed to be a help to you. Hopefully, if you're having problems with your function, you can use this and go and look around and try and determine where your error is. This is really useful. The most useful this is something we actually haven't quite looked at today yet, and that is if you've got green on your function, but you run it and you know it's not working. It's giving you the wrong answer. You just know it. The debugger is very helpful for going in and just tracing through exactly what it's doing step by step so you can find where your problem is. Okay, questions? Okay, that's it for today. If you've got any questions about homework or anything, we'll stick around for a few minutes. Otherwise, we'll see you Wednesday. Here I am.
So this is what